this is my review of Kaitou Joker. Okay, so in this episode, Spade and Joker once again compete to steal the same treasure, but this time things go horribly wrong. So, it does start off with both of them giving an advance notice to that they're actually going to steal the frozen sculpture of Odin, which is in Valhalla Tower on the 88th floor. And Oniyama shows up with his crew, with Momo and Genji, to actually figure out what exactly is how the best course of action to actually stop Joker from actually stealing it. And he proceeds to explain how he doesn't feel like the statue would be able to actually be taken by car. So for that reason, he decides that the best place for them to go would be on the roof, so that way they can actually not only keep watch the airways to see when Joker and Spade's respective airships show up, but also he feels like it's a great idea because they'll have to have coming through the roof to actually steal the statue of Odin. So with that, Oniyama just kind of waits on the roof for them, and that's where he stays for most of the episode. But as it turns out, he was completely wrong in his hunch, because Joker and Hachi actually show up in the Road Joker, and they're on their way to the Valhalla Tower. And Hachi is a little confused as to how they're actually going to steal the statue this time around, and Joker explains that he actually has invented a new gadget for them to actually use in the heist, which is effectively just a glorified air pump. The way it works is that it inflates balloons on the end of the hose, and then he attaches it to the hose, and then what he does is that he's going to inflate a ring-shaped balloon, stick the statue of Odin in it, stick the frozen statue of Odin in it, and then just roll it out. And Hachi kind of points out that that's kind of a dumb plan, but he also points out that Joker needs to actually slow down since they're actually going a little too fast. And Joker has a very good reason for speeding. Namely that he needs to head Spade off at the Valhalla Tower, so that he can actually get to the frozen ice sculpture of Odin before Spade does. And they do eventually arrive in the main lobby and get ready to go on the elevator to go up to the 80th floor to go steal the statue. But right around that moment, they notice that Spade and Darkeye are already there. And the four of them proceed to get into a bit of a scuffle, a very comedic scuffle, I should add, but a scuffle nonetheless, where Joker and Spade try to boot each other off the elevator so that they can actually get up to the roof. And actually get to where they need to go, and in the process they accidentally set off Joker's air balloon maker, and it pushes both of them out of the elevator, leaving Darkeye and Hachi alone on the elevator and going straight up. And they get a little bit annoyed that they got kicked out of the elevator. Meanwhile, Hachi and Darkeye have a bit of a back and forth banter about how since it seems like they're going to be alone on the heist, at least for the time being, until Joker and Spade catch up, that they might as well compete assistant to assistant to actually figure out who's better and who can actually steal it before their master does. And Darkeye accepts the challenge, pointing out that he's not going to lose because he's been Spade's apprentice for far longer. At which point Hachi points out that being a good assistant is about how long you've served, but how about how well you know your master and how well you can actually serve them in their capabilities. At which point the two proceed to have a bit of a back and forth about all of the different weaknesses that Joker and Spade respectively have. But eventually Hachi breaks it off when he notices an advertisement for an idol group called Shuffle Sisters, who are implied to have written the OP and ED for the show. And Darkeye gets a little bit nervous because he thinks that Hachi is pointing at him, but then turns around to notice the Shuffle Sister billboard, and Hachi takes that moment to kind of gush about the Shuffle Sisters. And it's interesting to note here that Darkeye is a little bit nervous, which makes me think that he's affiliated with the Shuffle Sisters in some way. I'm interested to see how that connection actually works out, but it seems like he's very nervous about his connection to the Shuffle Sisters and doesn't want to be affiliated with them. It's a very odd moment, but it is a bit of character writing that's there. But in case, after Hachi gushes about the Shuffle Sisters a little bit, Darkeye seems to notice that something is wrong as they get close to the 80th floor, and sure enough, when they get out, as it turns out, there's a massive fire in the room with the giant ice sculpture exhibit. and that it has broken out and is starting to spread throughout the rest of the building. So at which point Joker and Spade, after exchanging some banter about how none of Joker's gadgets actually work as intended, and Joker just firing back that the reason it didn't work as intended was because somebody set it off. They actually find out that there's actually a fire and then change out of their civilian clothes into their Phantom Thief clothes and proceed to run up the stairway to actually get to the 80th floor. At which point, and Oniyama, who is bored out of his mind while Geshi and Momo actually play rock paper scissors. They proceed to realize something is wrong, and Momo indeed gets a fire alert on her phone and reveals that they're actually on top of a burning building and are now stuck on top. And Oniyama begins to panic because he realizes he's now stuck on a burning building and is very much trapped and needs to actually get off the burning building. So at which point Joker and Spade just kind of compete to try and get to the top of the floor, pointing out that they need to save their apprentices and anybody else who might be stuck on the 88th floor. And Joker just kind of makes this bit of a snide remark about how Hachi is, despite all appearances, is actually pretty capable as an assistant, and wonders if Dark Eye is really that useless that he can't get himself out of a fire. But they then proceed to race each other up the stairway. And in the process, Joker takes the time to gloat because he got to the 88th floor first. And a slab of concrete actually falls out of the ceiling, and Spade has to save him. With Spade just pointing out that Joker was lucky he was there, and Joker pointing out that he could have gotten out of it without any issues. But they do arrive on the 88th floor, where they find Dark Eye and Hachi among several survivors, just kind of chilling out on the floor, waiting for somebody to come rescue them. And some of them are a little bit annoyed that they were actually rescued by Phantom Thieves rather than actual rescuers, and are a little annoyed that they're there since obvious, and it's not helped by the fact that Joker decides to point out that he's happy that the statue hasn't melted yet. And proceeds to point out that they've actually been rescued, that they actually are there to kind of maybe to actually rescue them and maybe steal the statue while they're at it. At which point King kind of takes a little King, but Spade kind of takes a little bit of charge to actually figure out what kind of things they have at their disposal to actually get out. And while their initial plan is to use some of their bubble gum to actually create balloons and actually lift everybody out, they realize they only have 5 pieces, which isn't enough to carry all the people. So they have to come up with an alternate idea. At which point one of the maintenance guys that got stuck there remarks that the only reason he got stuck in the building was because he was performing maintenance on the statue, and that if he hadn't done that, he likely wouldn't have been there. At which point Joker proceeds to come up with an idea and point out that they actually wonder what kind of maintenance actually needs to be maintained on the statue. And the maintenance guy just explains that they actually use nitrogen gas to keep the statue from melting. Effectively, they have 3 large tanks out lower in the somewhere in the building that are just pumped through the exhibit room, through from the ceiling into the display case, and that's what keeps the statue from melting even in the extreme heat. At which point Spade actually gets an idea and decides that they are going to steal the statue while they're there. At which point they come up with a brilliant idea. So first things first, they detach the hose connecting the nitrogen gas to the actual display case. But then on top of that, they actually push the dolly that it's on with the help from the other people that are there. And it's revealed what they actually have, because it's everything is on fire. They actually set up the sprinkler system, so they decide to use that to their advantage by combining the nitrogen piping used for the display to freeze the water from the sprinklers, and then just slip and slide their way through. And it does work. And eventually they do get to the service elevator, which is where they need to go to actually get out of the building. Only to discover that the service elevator has lost power because of the fire. Joker and Spade realize that they actually need to come up with another idea. And Joker decides to just charge back into the burning building, pointing out that if he hasn't figured out how to perform some sort of miracle, that they're kind of done for. And and for that proceeds to rush off with Spade coming after them. And obviously, well, there's this one guy who's completely, who I should mention, there's this one guy here who's just completely annoyed and upset by the fact that he's not being rescued by actual rescuers, and is very self-centered on that front. So when Joker and Spade leave to go quote unquote help, he gets annoyed at them, and although Hachi and Darkeye urge him to be patient and that he shouldn't worry about it. At which point we cut back to Oniyama, who has since taken off his uniform and is now waving it around on a stick like a flag. And long story short, he's just trying to use that to actually flag down all of the people that are to just flag down some rescue guys so that he can actually get off the building. And he eventually succeeds with a paramedics helicopter just landing on the roof and explaining how Joker, how this seems to be like they're the only survivors, and that there are other survivors in the building, and they have actually spotted Joker and Spade, but nobody has actually heard from them since. Oniyama is actually a little concerned about whether or not about that, pointing out that obviously there's no way that there shouldn't be any way for Joker and Spade to actually escape the building since it's obviously on fire. But he does wonder what kind of tricks they'll actually be able to pull to get everybody out to safety, since obviously they're phantom thieves, but even they aren't that cruel to just leave everybody to death. And as it turns out, they do have a plan. Because when all hope seems lost, and some of the survivors have actually started to wonder if Joker and Spade are ever coming back, Spade actually barges into the room, and a little hose actually pops out from underneath the elevator where it's stuck. At which point Joker and Spade reveal their plan. Joker's actually on top of the elevator. He somehow managed to get himself into the elevator shaft and is sitting on top of it. And while Spade actually hooks up the hose to Joker's balloon maker and actually hooks it up to the tank containing the statue of Odin, or the Ice Sculpture of Odin. And long story short, their plan is to just activate the machine, and then Joker's just going to cut the tube so that the wires holding the elevator up, so that they can actually get out of the building. And they set it on set the machine on a timer with this point, and Joker points out that they only have one chance at this. And Spade does get into the elevator, as Joker is cutting the wires, but notices that the machine actually shuts off at the very crucial moment and jumps out of the elevator to go get it, as Joker is cutting the wires, and they proceed to fall down the elevator shaft. At which point Spade works quickly to try and fix the machine and make sure it's all in a working order. And Spade once again reiterates that Joker's machines have never actually worked properly. And obviously he has, case in point, he has to fix the machine now. But does explain that when they do work, they can actually perform miracles. And case in point, the way the machine, once Spade actually fixes it, inflates a balloon on the bottom of the air shaft, which the elevator then bounces off of and goes back up the elevator shaft. And then Spade jumps on top of the elevator to join Joker, but almost falls off, and Joker has to catch him. And then reiterates the same line he said earlier to Joker, which is that he's just lucky that Joker was there. At which point they then proceed to get ready to go up. As they proceed to hit the roof of the elevator shaft, they pull out two of their little card shuriken things, and then just throw them and break the ceiling open and fly out and land safely on the roof. And Oniyama is a mix of annoyed that they're there, but happy that they actually that all of the people are alive and well, and also that one guy I told you about starts clinging on Oniyama, who, I should mention, I mentioned this, he took off his uniform to use it as a flag, but he hasn't since put it back on, so he's in his underwear, and the guy starts groveling at his feet and pulling out his underwear, and Oniyama is very concerned because he's worried that he's going to actually flash some of the people that are watching the show. But with all the survivors safe and sound, Joker and Spade then proceed to take their leave with Hachi and Darkeye in close pursuit, and they proceed to go back to their respective airships. And with that, the fire department actually proceeds to put out the fire and starts putting it out. At which point Joker proceeds to celebrate a job well done with some of Hachi's shaved ice. And as Joker is eating his custom-made dessert, Hachi then proceeds to point out that he's a little bit sad that they weren't actually able to steal the ice statue of Odin, pointing out that it surely has melted by now because of the fire. But Joker points out that Hachi shouldn't jump to conclusions so quickly. And as it turns out, there's actually is sort of a happy ending for the heroes after all. So So the next day after the fire has been well put out, Oniyama actually goes into the exhibit to investigate, pointing out that Joker actually didn't manage to steal the statue, but they didn't manage to arrest him either, so it kind of wound up being a wash. But as he walks into the room, he discovers that this ice statue of Odin is completely fine. At which point, Joker and Spade show up to steal the statue, and we find out via one of Silverheart's information corners that we basically get a science lesson as to how fire and heat works. So as it turns out, attaching the balloon maker to the glass case where the ice statue of Odin is actually create a vacuum. They use the air from the statue case to inflate the balloon, and because of that, they create a vacuum within the statue case. And because heat travels using a medium such as air, the fire actually couldn't melt the statue, so the statue wound up being completely fine. And with that, Spade, Darkeye, Hachi, and Joker use their air balloons to actually haul the statue out of the now collapsed ceiling, and they proceed to escape with it. But they kind of argue over who should actually get to actually steal the statue. Since obviously Joker was the one who came up with the idea to actually steal the statue and use the air balloon, but to actually create a vacuum. But it was Spade who actually got the machine to work properly so that they could actually pull off of Joker's plan in the first place. So they just kind of wind up. I don't know what happens to it, but I think they wind up just splitting it because they really realize that they're both responsible for stealing it. At which point, Silverheart himself shows up. He's in an actual episode this time. He's not just showing up in one of his info corners, but he shows up, standing on one of the roofs. He sees them steal the statue, and he points out that it seems like they still get along as marvelously as ever. So, yeah, and also Silverheart becomes a major character in the next part of the episode. So I'm interested to see how that's actually going to play out for him. But this episode was interesting in that it just showed that Joker and Spade aren't just concerned with stealing treasures. They will save a life if they have to, and they did. They saved a whole group of people trapped inside a burning building using their Phantom Thief tools. So yeah, they're not bad guys. They're just on the wrong side of the law because of their general profession. So. Yeah, this is further enforced by the fact that Oniyama doesn't even move to arrest them once they actually rescue their survivor, since he recognizes that they're actually heroes in this situation, and arresting them would actually be a bad idea. So yeah, it does show that Oniyama does have lengths in which he's willing to go to actually arrest Phantom Thieves, but there's a line he's not willing to cross, namely when Joker and his comrades are actually heroes in that situation, like they were here. So obviously Oniyama isn't going to care in that situation, because obviously they didn't steal the thing they were after until later, and B, they saved a bunch of people in the process, so he doesn't really care. As long as there's lives saved in the process, he doesn't seem to care. But also there's a thing with Darkeye. I'm so curious to see how that's going to play out. But yeah, in any case, that's my review of Kaitou Joker. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion on the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. If you guys want to help support me, be sure to check out my Patreon down in the description below. Be sure to check out my Twitch down in the description below as well. If you want to see more content from me, be sure to check that out. I stream every Sunday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. And finally, if you want to see more videos from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one. Whereas the bottom video is the video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those out. But, regardless of whether or not you do any or all those things, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!